What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Review for Higurashi Sotsu. This is episode 3, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
So yeah, this is the last episode in this particular arc, which is the demon revealing chapter. So
the Oni Damashi, I think.
Yeah. So there was one thing we forgot to bring up in last week's review is particularly about Rina, about how they ended up changing her personality in this one compared to how she was in the original arc. In the original series, like, Rina was much more unsympathetic to what she was doing towards Rena and her father, because she was basically just taking advantage of her dad, of Rena's dad, taking all of his money he was spending, like, with I think it was like, what was it, the divorce settlement or something like that.
Yeah.
So this of course led to like a violent confrontation between Rina and Rena, and fighting each other in that same dumpster yard, which of course Rena still ended up killing her in the end. However, like, of course, in this new series in Sotsu, like, Rina's personality is like completely flip-flopped, just like almost every other character that we seen, like at the end of Higurashi Go. Like another example is that we see like Sadako's uncle like had to change a heart, and then we also see Takano also had a change of heart, like pretty much abandoning her like whatever her mission was to kill off the whole town and use her the experiments to her own ends.
Right. So, do you think there's any like significance to these characters having like a change, like having a change of heart? Like, do you think it's going to play any sort of role in the plot? Because I mean, I have to wonder why this is. I mean, like, I know I think we did get a brief explanation in Go as to why this is happening, because if you go through the loops enough, then eventually you'll something will happen where the characters might change or something like that.
I mean, Sadako has been taking notice of this too, but it doesn't seem. It's hard for me to believe that people like changing their personalities or having second thoughts of what they were doing might have any effect of Sadako's objective, because it like anytime like she gets wind of something like that happens, she just completely shatters it by whatever she's doing, because she has possession of the the H173 vial she always carries around. So like anytime like she just immediately injects someone with the virus, then they just lose control and all hell breaks loose afterwards.
I wonder if because we remember Rika was trying to change things in Go, how she was like trying to alter certain events. I wonder if Rika might take notice of these certain characters acting differently, and that she might like try to in some way get them to try to help her out.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, the latest loop that we've seen was when near the end of like last season, in which she finally discovers that Sadako is the looper, but we don't get to see a continuation of that soon afterwards. So, I'm assuming if like we will get a resolution or a follow up to that episode, like it's hard to know like whether or not Rika will like take advantage of like of those certain people that have like that kind of change in personality.
Yeah, like so we already know that the first half of the season is pretty much going to be like, in a way, like a retread of events from the beginning half of Go, but with different character perspectives. So I guess anything like really significantly different is probably going to happen after that.
Yeah.
And then like, eventually we may or may not go back to that scene and see what happens after that. So maybe my theory might play out afterwards if Rika does end up going through like any more like timelines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, for this week's episode, it was okay, but I don't think it was as good as the last two episodes. Like you said, all like all these episodes that we've seen, and of course the probably the upcoming episodes, it's just going to be a retread of everything that we've seen already with a different perspective. This, however, is pretty much a culmination of what happened at the end of of the Oni Damashi arc. It pretty much I would say almost half of this episode was just reusing a lot of the scenes from that first arc, because
I felt like certain scenes were condensed.
Yeah, some of it were,
or some things that were unnecessary, like they didn't really show.
Yeah.
When they needed to switch to Rena's perspective, they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course, it kind of made the episode feel like it went by a lot faster than it did, because of course we did see several more scenes of what Rena was doing in her perspective before she went to Keiichi's house and ended up nearly stabbing him to death. So but yeah, this episode was mostly about Rena being paranoid of Keiichi, because she thinks that Keiichi found out that she ended up killing Rina in the previous episode. So she notices, she of course notices Keiichi talking to Oishi outside the school, and I think she goes to her place at one point, catching Keiichi talking on the phone with Oishi about her past, leaving what was it, Hinamizawa for several years ago before coming back, and then of course we see another scene with Rena talking to her dad, explaining what happened to Rina. Of course, Rena is of course not telling her dad what happened. So and then of course finally we see Rena going over to Keiichi's house, and then of course we do see the exact condensed scene of her stabbing Keiichi. But at the same time, we also see Rika also witnessing the event outside before Rena gets into the house, initially thinking that she may have ended up changing events. But of course, that's not what happened by the end of this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course we with the scene where Rena's spying on Keiichi, we also see Sadako also you just kind of being very obviously suspicious, just kind of I guess keeping tabs on Rika supposedly. But yeah, so of course this is kind of where the episode starts, after the stabbing. That's kind of where the episode starts to show us more new stuff, with us learning what happened to, or the Keiichi's in the hospital, and Rika basically, once she learned this, she pretty much figures that this is a failed timeline, and we just pretty much see her give up, which is, remember, if you remember, we saw her killed in the Go, and we pretty much find out how that happened in this episode, that she just goes back to her house and just stabs herself multiple times with a knife. I still find the amount of blood in this series completely ridiculous, because I don't really think it was necessary for her to stab herself as many times as she did. She stabbed herself in the neck, which would have been enough to kill her. But she starts losing just gallons of blood, it just spurts out everywhere. I don't even know how many times she stabbed herself. Yeah, and then of course she just lies there in the pool of blood, and Sadako comes in later, and I don't know if this was meant to be comedic, but I couldn't help but find it really just hilarious, because Sadako listens for her heartbeat after seeing her just covered in so much blood. And she's just oh, I think you're dead or something. And I just don't know how that would have been immediately obvious to you if you just see the whole place covered in her blood. But yeah, she determines she's of course dead because of her obvious lack of heartbeat, and just decides to kill herself, so she can move on to the next timeline. So that's pretty much how the two of them ended up dead. From what we learned from the from secondhand, at least from Mion in first year in Go. So yeah, we pretty much see how that happened.
Yeah, I mean, but there was another thing that happened at the end of the original, like, what was it? The demon deceiving arc is like the last thing we see was like Keiichi scratching his neck and him screaming at the end of the episode, but it never really follows up on that. We just only get have the ending.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Wasn't there like a nurse or something that injected him or something? Or no, was that the other?
A nurse came in.
I think that was the other.
A nurse came in asking if Keiichi's neck was, feeling itchy, and then Keiichi ended up scratching his neck, and that's where the episode cuts out with him screaming, but then that's it.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't get an explanation for that.
No. I mean,
I don't know. Maybe they're saving that for later.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know. It's possible Sadako might have injected him with the virus too, but I don't see the reason for that, seeing as like how that.
Yeah, that doesn't really make sense because I mean, I kind of get the impression that Keiichi was like the one that Sadako might be trying to protect. So I don't know why she would do that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's still confusing. That scene is still like really confusing to me. I mean, it kind of cleared up everything else with that. So like maybe it'll explain that later.
Yeah,
but yeah, as for now, like we still don't know what happened there.
I mean, no, this episode was okay, but it just kind of felt a little bit bogged down with them reusing, for several scenes from the previous arcs, and I mean, it's not as, it's not as good as like as we see in the last two episodes in which, Rena ended up confronting Rena, but yeah, it's just. I
mean, the only scene that I'm just like not exactly sure was totally necessary was them like reusing the ceremonial dance. Like it didn't really add anything.
No, I mean
it wasn't new. Like there's nothing new about it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There was at least. I really wish they could have put more clarity of what happened, even after Rika and Sadako killed themselves. I mean, I wish we could have gotten at least a couple more scenes with Keiichi after he woke up from the hospital. But that was pretty much it. And it looks like we're pretty much moving on to the Cotton revealing chapter, which is like, the one particular arc that we had, trouble comprehending of like what really happened at the end of it, because it kind of just like ended like, ambiguously without any explanation. So hopefully with this, hopefully with this arc, we'll get a better explanation of what happened at the end, because.
Yeah. So this arc was the one. I mean, the next arc was the one where we were I feel like most left in the dark as to what was really going on. Like we really didn't get any answers as to what was happening. And I'm assuming that the next arc will probably just be from Mion's perspective. And what makes this arc more confusing is that you're never really sure which of the twins is which, like if it's Mion or Shion. It could be kind of following the original plot where the two sisters like switch out at certain times or certain points in the story, and it did kind of like retread certain things from the original series. So I guess it'll be interesting to know if they still kind of did the same thing where like that's the same, if the scene was the same as in the original where Shion would show up and be pretending to be Mion, or Mion would pretend to be Shion or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, Ryokishi probably, I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to switch things around again just to confuse people. But I guess we'll get those answers in the next arc.
Yeah, I mean, particularly the very last episode of the Demon Deceiving arc, like it just starts out like with everything going to hell immediately with supposedly like Rika disappearing like out of nowhere, and then everyone like goes around trying to look for her, and we just don't even. And there were hints of it saying is like, I think it was Mion who was apparently going crazy, but then soon afterwards she takes Keiichi over to the Sonozaki residence, takes him over to the bunker, and then locks him down there, and then we just don't like get to see like the rest of the story of what happens. We just don't, we just get like a
Well,
we just get like a secondhand accounting from Oishi of what really happened afterwards.
yeah, I mean, for the looks of things, it looked like she was about to go out and fight the, I think they're called the Mountain Dogs, which is the mercenary group. So, yeah, I'm very curious as to what happened at that point, because, you know, we also see that supposedly Shion died along with Sadako. So there's just a lot of questions I had with that. So, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that one. This one was like, yeah, I would say this arc as a whole was just, it was okay. It was an interesting twist, I guess, on the original Onikakushi arc, where, you know, it was Keiichi who was the one who was paranoid. This time it's Rena. But yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about it. I thought it was a fairly decent episode, like, not bad. Just I guess I would have to agree with Blue Spade. It was okay. Like I do feel like there were some scenes that they didn't need to use again. I understood the use of certain other scenes when it, you know, is sort of like providing more context for what was going on from Rena's point of view.
Yeah, I mean,
but then there were some scenes where I was just like, I don't really know why we're going over this again.
Yeah, there were points of that episode where I admittedly did have to, you know, fast forward the episode at several points.
I mean, to be fair, like I said, it did condense a lot of the scenes. I feel like to a pretty good extent. I mean, you know, the original arc was 4 episodes. This one was or was it 4? I think
it was 4.
It might have been
5. I'm trying to remember.
Because this one was 3. So yeah, like I do feel like it condensed it to an extent, which it should have. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
but yeah, I don't really have.
Yeah, I mean, the entire season itself, they said it's supposedly going to be 16 episodes. So I'm
15.
15. I thought it was, well, anyway,
you can look it up.
But yeah, but anyway, it looks like, yeah, like all the previous story arcs that we've seen will more than likely be a little bit more condensed this time around. With who knows if the next the cotton revealing arc will be 2 parts or maybe 3 parts or something like that. But I mean, hopefully, like we'll have a much better explanation of what happened in that particular arc, because that arc from Go like left our head scratching a lot more than every other arc that we've seen.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this episode. I don't know if you have anything else to say.
I mean, I thought it was okay, and a good way for, you know, us to end this, you know, this, I guess, the revelation of the previous arc. So we'll finally, hopefully, like, you know, get a much better explanation of what happened in the cotton arc from Higurashi Go. So can't wait for that.
Yeah, it was. I will say, just as a side note, it was interesting to see just Rena lose her mind much more, I think, in this episode too, because there was way more scenes of her just totally going crazy, like, and just like, some people, like, I feel like in a lot of other ways too, it was just a little bit unintentionally hilarious with how, like, she was just constantly, it almost felt like she was just constantly doing like the crazy eyes and just like, just kind of just losing it essentially. Like, it was,
I mean, yeah, she was like, most times, like when she's like around her friends, like she's like, you know, completely normal, but at times, like, she just completely loses it, like in private, which I find pretty unique, because, like, honestly, I don't even know how effective, like, you know, H173 even is, because if I remember,
it must be fair. It must be pretty effective.
But I don't know. It's just like it works differently with different people as well. Because, like, if you remember, I think it was like Mion and Shion's mother, like, completely loses it, and then there was like Oishi just completely, you know, loses it even further by just scratching his neck to the point where it just completely, you know, where his neck just completely squirts out blood, and then he murders like literally almost everybody at the festival. So
I mean, I would say it has a pretty similar effect of turning everybody completely insane. I mean, because if you remember Rika going through those multiple different timelines, like, it just kind of turns everybody into a crazy, like, you know, psychotic murderer.
Yeah.
Their methods might be different, but they're pretty much it's all the same I mean, that they all kind of more or less act the same way. I would
Yeah,
say.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But yeah. So yeah, I guess that that all being said, until next Thursday, we will see you all next time.